We're down to 176 Texas high school football teams, and we will cut it in half again in the third round of the playoffs. These are the picks. Welcome into the picks, your guide to Texas high school football weekend. My name is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and here we are, the regional semifinals of the 2018 Texas high school football playoffs. 88 games scattered across the state from Class 6A down to Class 1A, and we are going to cover every single one of them in this video. We start in Frisco. 8 o'clock Saturday night at the Ford Center in Frisco. It is a 5A Division II regional semifinal between the Marshall Mavericks and the Huntsville Hornets. What are the keys to this matchup? Well, key number one, the trenches, and this is where the biggest advantage lies for Huntsville. This is a big, physical, mean team that has a lot of size up front. Not just their big-time defensive lineman, Devontre Sweat, but on the other side as well with their big offensive line led by Jesse Hoke. Marshall's going to be the smaller team in this game, but they've got some playmakers themselves in their center, Christian Hood, and their defensive end, Marcus Jones. Can Marshall play the trenches to a draw, or will Huntsville dominate up front? Key number two, Marshall's burners. For what they lack in size, they certainly make up for in speed on the Marshall sideline. They have a ton of playmakers who can cut the brakes and go. Quarterback J.J. Green has been spectacular, and he's got a number of weapons on the outside. Taj Washington and DeKendrick Baker. They are going to be the faster team on the field in Frisco on Saturday night. Can they let that speed loose, or will Huntsville contain them? And key number three, the big stage. The lights are going to get brighter every single week in the Texas high school football playoffs, and here in the regional semifinals of the 5A Division II bracket, we're kind of in uncharted territory for both Marshall and Huntsville. Marshall hasn't been this far since 2015, which is when these seniors on this Mavericks team were just freshmen. And on the other side, Huntsville hasn't been this far since 1990. That's before any of these guys who are going to suit up for the Hornets were even born. So, on this big stage, in the Sweet 16, who can handle the moment better? Who am I picking? I'm going with Huntsville. Obviously, the physical advantage is going to be key for the Hornets in this one, but we didn't even mention just how great their defense has been. It absolutely shut down a high-powered Manville attack last week, and I expect them to be on their game once again. Not to mention their outstanding quarterback, Matthew Southern, who feels really locked in right now. For Marshall, the key for them is to get out and run. They will have the speed advantage in this game. Turn this thing into a track meet. But for now, I think Huntsville moves on to the regional final. Let's stay in that same building, 7:30 p.m. Friday night at the Ford Center in Frisco. It's a 4A Division I regional semifinal between the Midlothian Heritage Jaguars and the Carthage Bulldogs. What are the keys to this matchup? Well, key number one, the Landon Ledbetter show. And plain and simple, what can you say about the Midlothian Heritage quarterback that hasn't already been said? He's one of the most decorated passers in Class 4A. A 3-year starter. He's going to pass the 3,000-yard mark on the season in this game. He's thrown for 43 touchdowns against just 7 interceptions. This kid has been everything you want in a signal caller. And by the way, he's got some outstanding wide receivers like receiver Langston Anderson. This is a huge game against the defending champs. Can Landon Ledbetter step up and have his biggest game yet? Key number two, Carthage's home run hitters. You know, we had some questions about this Carthage offense coming off of their 2017 state championship. Most notably, how do you replace your bell cow in running back Keontae Ingram, who's now off to the University of Texas? Well, the way that they've done it is that they've found a number of different weapons who can take it to the house every single time they touch the ball. Quarterback Gunnar Capps has been outrageous this year. His receiver, Kelvonte Dixon, has stepped up in a big way. And I think their running game with Tucker Smith is really underrated as well. Carthage has a number of ways to beat you. Can they take the top off this defense and hit a couple of home runs? And key number three, defense, anyone? So I think both these teams actually fall into the same category of having these really high-powered, exciting, headline-grabbing offenses that overlook really, really good defenses. Carthage has been really sound defensively with Rayvon Ingram, and on the other side, Connor Jones has led what's been a resurgent Jaguars defense. Both these defenses can hold their own. All the headlines are going to be about the offensive matchup here. Can the defenses step up and steal the show? Who am I picking? I'm going with Carthage. Call it the champion's advantage or call it just not picking against a streak. Remember, Carthage has won 38 games in a row. But for me, I just think that their offensive weaponry is so diverse and so dangerous that I think it could be the difference in this one. Not to mention, I think this Carthage defense is really rounding into form and looking like that vintage Bulldogs defense. On the other side, look, Midlothian Heritage has some weapons. Landon Ledbetter is probably the best quarterback in 4A. This kid has been absolutely sensational, and he can light it up with Langston Anderson. But can they slow down Carthage enough to make it matter? I'm just not sure. I think Carthage defends their crown. I think they move on to the regional final. 7 o'clock Friday night at NRG Stadium in Houston. It's a 6A Division I regional semifinal between the Katy Tigers and the Galena Park North Shore Mustangs. And if you feel like you've seen this movie before, it's because you have. This was a Week 1 matchup between these two teams. North Shore went on the road to Katy and took home a 35-21 win. 14 points. That's what Katy has to make up. Now, I don't think there's any doubt that Katy has improved as the season has gone on. The defense is really starting to look like that Gary Joseph coach defense, and DeAndre Glass is really humming right now. Their running back has been simply sensational. But as much as Katy has improved, I think North Shore's improved just as much. Their running game with Zachary Evans is really grinding. Their quarterback, Demetrius Davis, has been great. And oh yeah, their defense is still suffocating people. I think this game could be closer than the first one, but I think the result is the same. Give me North Shore. 6 o'clock Saturday at McLean Stadium in Waco. It's a 6A Division II regional semifinal as the Longview Lobos take on the Vandegrift Vipers. Battle of unbeatens in this one, and I think this game has a chance to be really strength on strength. Trevor Harrison and Javon Parker have been outstanding for this really, really good Vandegrift defense. They shut down Klein Collins last week, which is no small feat. What happens when they go up against Haynes King and this high-powered Longview attack? That's going to be fun to watch, but the difference in this one, I think, is Longview's defense. They are really, really talented, and they are flying to the football right now. I think they win a low-scoring slugfest. Give me Longview. 8 o'clock Saturday night at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. It's a 5A Division I regional semifinal as the Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial Eagles take on the Mission Veterans Memorial Patriots. And if you're a little bit confused, it's okay. They have basically the same name, but they have a very, very different style. Corpus Christi Vets wants to run the ball, keep it on the ground, rely on the running game with Kobe Piper and that big offensive line, and grind this thing out. On the other side, Mission Veterans Memorial has maybe the best player you don't know about. Landry Gilpin, their quarterback, is putting up Kyler Murray-esque numbers. Yes, I mean that. The numbers are really ridiculous. He is a superstar. Can he take over this game? This is tough to call, but I like Mission Vets to move on to the regional final. 7:30 p.m. Friday night at Provost Umphrey Stadium in Beaumont. It is a 4A Division II regional semifinal between the Jasper Bulldogs and the West Orange Stark Mustangs. Another rematch, this game taking place the first time in early October, with Jasper coming away with a win, but this is a different West Orange Stark team. That chain gang defense is really, really starting to hum. They're starting to hit people. That win last week over Sweeney was really impressive, and more importantly, their offense has found some momentum. Caven Cooper and this running game is starting to get a little something going. On the other side, Jasper, I think that defense is starting to peak. Really and truly. That win last week over Belleville was very impressive, and their running game with Montavian Hunt is really grinding as well. This is really close to call, and I hate going against a team like West Orange Stark, who has such pedigree, but I think Jasper might have their number. Give me the Bulldogs. 7 o'clock Friday night at Shotwell Stadium in Abilene. It's a 3A Division I regional semifinal between the Wall Hawks and the Brock Eagles. And yeah, it's an annual tradition. This is the 5th consecutive year that these two teams have gone at it in the playoffs. Brock has won 3 of the previous 4 meetings. The key for Wall in this one, I think, is play action. This is a team that likes to run the ball, but they have a very capable quarterback in Mason Fuchs who can pull it back and burn Brock with his arm. I think, though, that this Brock defense is really starting to play exceptionally well. Linebacker Zach Young has been spectacular, not to mention the offense, I think, is starting to find its groove. I think Brock takes home a win. 7 o'clock Friday at Sherwood Memorial Stadium in Plainview. It's a 3A Division II regional semifinal as Tulia takes on Abernathy. 2 surprising teams in this one. Abernathy looked really good in their win over Childress last week, and Tulia, man, to finish 3rd in their district and to keep on humming with wins over Merkel and Crane in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, really impressive. Their running game with Sean Kelly has been great. Can they find an answer for Bryson Daly and this suddenly white-hot Abernathy attack? I'm not sure. I think Abernathy takes home a win. 7:30 p.m. Friday night at Ferris Stadium in San Antonio. It's a 2A Division I regional semifinal between the Shiner Comanches and the Refugio Bobcats. And finally, 2A Division I Region 4, the Region of Doom, is going to start to sort itself out. Shiner has been arguably the most complete and consistent team in 2A Division I all year long. Their defense is just crushing people, and running back Danye Taylor seems to have hit another gear in the playoffs. Refugio is an interesting story. This is a team that got off to a slow start, reinvented themselves offensively in the middle of the season, moving back to the spread offense. Quarterback Austin Ochoa has been sensational. What happens when these two teams meet? It's hard to tell, but I think Shiner's defense is the difference. Give me the Comanches. 7 o'clock Friday night at Mustang Stadium in Madisonville. It is a 2A Division II regional semifinal as the Grapeland Sandies take on the Mart Panthers. And, Grapeland's been one of those teams that's just flown under the radar all year long, but this team is really, really good. They have a defense that takes the ball away, led by the sophomore playmaker Cooper Sheridan, not to mention their quarterback Rick Frauenberger has been really special this year. But what happens when they go up against a Mart team with tons of pedigree and tons of speed? Their running game is really starting to get going with running back Tyrick Horn. I think this game could be closer than you think, but I do think Mart takes home a victory. And it's time for regional finals in Class 1A. 7 o'clock Friday night at Bulldog Stadium in Brady. The Leakey Eagles take on the Gorman Panthers, and two really tremendous stories in this one. Gorman had their first playoff win since 2008 when they were an 11-man team, back in the first round of the playoffs when they knocked off Eden, and then they followed that up with an upset win over Nueces Canyon. And Leakey, they're in their first year playing six-man ball. They went 1-9 as an 11-man program last year, and they have just kept on humming. Really sad to see one of these teams go home. They have been really fun to watch, but I think Hunter Williams is the difference for Leakey. I think the Eagles move on to the state semifinals. And 7 o'clock Friday night in Hico, it's a 1A Division II regional final between the Iredell Dragons and the Strawn Greyhounds. And if you want to tell me that these are the two very best teams in 1A Division II and the winner of this game will win the state championship, I think I would believe you. Iredell has been nearly perfect all year long. The Dragons have held 6 of their opponents to single digits in points. That is absolutely outrageous when you're talking about six-man football. Strawn, you know them. They're the defending champs, and they bring back all that talent from last year. I think that pedigree is what is the difference in a very close game. I think Strawn moves on to the state semifinals. But those are far from the only big games in the third round of the Texas High School Football Playoffs. Let's get to a mega-sized lightning round. In 6A Division I, I think Southlake Carroll gets the win over Euless Trinity in a rematch of that classic game 12 years ago. And I think Duncanville beats Arlington Lamar. Allen rolls past the Woodlands. Hewitt Midway keeps it going with a win over Klein Oak. And Humble Atascocita takes down defending 6A Division II champ Cy Fair. It's Valley Week in Region 4. I like Lake Travis over Weslaco, and Converse Judson beats San Benito. 6A Division II now, I think Haltom beats Hebron, and as good of a story as Mesquite Horn has been, I think Spring Westfield gets the win. I think Amarillo Tascosa keeps it rolling with a win over Mansfield Lake Ridge. Beaumont Westbrook takes down Katy Tompkins, and Cy Creek beats Humble Summer Creek. San Antonio Brandeis beats Brownsville Hanna, and watch out for this one. I do think Austin Westlake beats Edinburgh Vela, but it's close. 5A Division I now, Grapevine takes down Birdville, and Denton Ryan keeps it rolling with a win over Lubbock Coronado. Highland Park soars by Mansfield Timberview. Frisco Lone Star uses their defense to get by John Tyler, and I like Alvin Shadow Creek in another close one over Georgetown. San Antonio Wagner stays perfect with a win over Corpus Christi Flower Bluff, and Hutto stays perfect with a win over Richmond Foster. 5A Division II now, battle of upstarts. I like Wichita Falls Rider to get by Canyon Randall, and I like Lubbock Cooper over Justin Northwest. Aledo outmuscles South Oak Cliff. Frisco Reedy squeaks by Burleson Centennial, and one of the best matchups of quarterbacks in the state. I like Fort Bend Marshall over Port Neches Groves. Kerrville Tivy outguns Port Lavaca Calhoun, and Corpus Christi Cal Allen keeps rolling. They beat Brenham. 4A Division I now, I like Canyon over Hereford, and Wichita Falls Hershey gets over Decatur. Waco La Vega beats Paris in a slugfest. Liberty Hill runs by Sealy, and I like Argyle to win their rematch with Salina. Lavernia edges La Feria, and okay, I'm done doubting Van. I think the Vandals beat Henderson. 4A Division II now, Midland Greenwood takes down Iowa Park, and Lubbock Estacado gets past Glenrose. Give me defending champ Pleasant Grove to beat Gilmer. I like Lorena to beat Pittsburgh, and Giddings over Silsbee. Geronimo Navarro runs past Rockport Fulton, and Cuero beats Corpus Christi West Oso. 3A Division I now, Shallow Water stays perfect with a win over Eastland, and I think Mount Vernon beats Atlanta. I'm buying in on Malakoff. I think they beat Gladewater. I think Cameron Yo wins a shootout over East Chambers, and give me Franklin over Grandview. Edna topples Rice Consolidated, and in a rematch, I like Goliad to beat Yoakum. 3A Division II now, I think Canadian beats their district bunkmate Spearman for the second time, and I like Gunner over Comanche. Buffalo nips Holiday, Corrigan Camden takes down Dangerfield, and Newton soars past Troop. I like Van Vleck over Tidehaven, and in a close one, I like East Bernard over Blanco. Down to 2A Division I now, I like New Deal over Panhandle, and Sundown gets by Stinnett, West Texas. Dilion scoots by Riesel. San Saba stays perfect with a win over Celeste, and I like Price Carlisle just barely over Tenaha. Give me San Augustine over Garrison, and Mason beats Wallace Brazos. To 2A Division II we go. Groover beats Clarendon, and Stratford takes down Vega. Wellington clips Hamlin. Albany beats Wheeler, and I like Munster over Evadale. Battle of Unbeatens, I like Fall City over Woodsboro, and give me Burton over Granger. And it's regional finals in six-man football. In 1A Division I like Garden City to squeak by Balmorhea. Give me Milford to beat Union Hill, and I like McLean to topple White Deer. And last but certainly not least, 1A Division II. I like Follette over Motley County. Give me Jayton to stay hot with a win over Grand Falls Royalty, and Richland Springs beats Oakwood. And those are the picks, all 88 Texas high school football games this weekend. I picked them right here because I am a glutton for punishment. So why don't you let me know, what am I wrong about? Leave comments down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/DaveCampbells. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/DaveCampbells. And of course, see us at TexasFootball.com, where you can find complete coverage of the 2018 Texas High School Football Playoffs at TexasFootball.com/playoffs. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the third round of the Texas High School Football Playoffs. We'll see you.